if I could get $1 for every time someone asks me about an account, I'm telling you for a fact, right now, I would own a bike, because people ask me so many questions, and I've realized guys are very confused, like they don't know how to get started. People ask me, Olivia, is it possible for me to open an account in Kenya? Or is it possible for me to use an account without having to mask my IP address? Even people from the US, people from these other countries ask me, so I have all the details I need. How do I go about opening an account? There are others who ask me, so supposing I can open an account, is it possible for me to give somebody the account so that they can manage it for me? Or if I decide to open this account, what are the tax implications? So people have so many questions, and in this video I'm going to address these questions to help you get started, especially if you've decided to use accounts as a way to make money online. So stick around, because I'm going to answer these questions, and in case I haven't answered your question, kindly feel free to leave it in the comment section. I will be more than happy to answer it there. So let's get started. One of the most commonly asked questions, because most of my viewers are beginners, so they ask, what are these accounts to begin with? And to answer that question, I want you to think of an account as an intermediary, so they go between. On the one hand, we have companies looking for content, looking for transcripts, and on the other hand, we have freelancers like you looking for work. So the intermediary brings these two parties together. The company brings in the orders. If it's a transcription account, the company brings in audios and videos, and the transcribers handle the work. If it's a content writing account, the company brings in blogs, social media posts, newsletters and whatnot, and the writers handle the work. Once they're done, the intermediary submits the work back to the client, and the client pays. And when the client pays, the intermediary pays the freelancers. So it's a win-win for all the parties. The clients get their work, the intermediary gets its cut, and the writers or the transcribers get their share of what they've worked for. Now, the only challenge is usually getting access to these accounts, because you cannot handle those tasks unless you have opened an account. So basically, you need to have access to that account, and that's where it becomes a bit hard, and I think that's where most people have a challenge, like accessing the accounts. And the reason is, most of these accounts are IP sensitive or location sensitive, meaning you're not going to be able to open the account even if you want to, if you're from certain locations, okay? Vablio, for example, only allows people from America and American colonies to be able to open the account. So even if you're from the UK or from what country, you're not going to be able to open that account. We have another example like Rev. Rev is a transcription account, and it allows people from the US, the UK, I think Philippines, South Africa, and other countries. But if your country is not listed as a country that is allowed to open the account, then you're not going to be able to open one. Of course, you're going to find people from restricted countries trying to open their accounts, but the biggest challenge is usually the documentation that they ask. Like if you're opening accounts like Vablio, they're going to ask you for social security number, they're going to ask you for the mobile phone number, they're going to ask you for physical address. So unless you have these things, it becomes a bit hard for you to open the account. The best alternative, if you're from these restricted countries, is to talk to a friend or a loved one who is from the countries that are allowed to open the account for you. Like for example, if somebody is from the US, you can ask them to open the account for you. Or if they're from the UK and there's an account that allows people from the UK to open, you can have them open the account for you. It's easier that way. So option 2 is, you'll find that people buy these accounts. Like there are people who sell the accounts, and unfortunately they're going to sell the accounts at a very high price. Okay, so if you have the money to invest in these accounts, then you can have those people sell it to you. But I wouldn't recommend, because accounts that have been bought are usually very risky. Like their chances of getting closed are like at 99. So you might be lucky enough to use it for a while, but eventually it always ends up getting closed. So I wouldn't advise you to buy an account. Though if that is the means that you're going to use to maybe make it for a while, then by all means. If you're lucky enough, you can use it for a while, but for the most part, it always ends up getting closed. And I'll talk about that later on. Another big question is, if the person who is in this country that is permitted to access the account has no time or has no skill to go about opening the account, but they want you, who is in a country that is not permitted, to help them proceed with that. How do you do that? Now, in that case, I would highly encourage you to use a VPN so that you're able to access the account without any issues. And also, the same thing applies if maybe you are the owner of the account and you're traveling to other countries. In as much as these accounts say that they don't have an issue with that, sometimes traveling, changing IP addresses can end up impacting the account. People also ask, how do I go about opening an account? So the good thing is most of these accounts are very easy to open. Like for the most part, they're going to ask you for your name, they're going to ask you for some details. And again, in between the process, they're going to give you some grammar test. The ones that they ask, which is the correct sentence, like which one is correctly punctuated, you know those, very easy. And for writing, there's a point that they're going to give you some passages, teach you about plagiarism, and then give you a couple of passages and tell you to pick the one that is plagiarized, which is really easy. So some accounts will ask you for resume, others will ask you for LinkedIn profile, in which case you're going to use those of the person who's opening the account, assuming is the person from the countries that are allowed to open that account, right? So just make sure that all the details match and everything checks. And again, sometimes you'll apply to an account and maybe they'll tell you they're not hiring at the moment. You can try the other ones, because like any other company, you'll realize that they're hiring at certain times and other times they're not. So if this one is not hiring, you can try out the other one, and if this one is not hiring, you can try out the other. Like I've said, towards the end of the video, I'm going to leave a list of accounts so you can try out a couple. The good thing about freelancing accounts, at least most of them, is that they pay via PayPal. So you can just attach your PayPal account to the account so that when they're paying, the money comes straight to your account. But for tax implications, I would highly encourage you guys to always deduct the tax amount, because in as much as you can get away with it, but freelancers have the responsibility to file their taxes. So the last thing that you want is to land your friend or your loved one in trouble. So if you can, as soon as the money comes, just remove the tax amount, send it back to them and let them pay the taxes. But by the way, there are also accounts that only pay via the banks. So Verbly is a good example. Like a while back, they used to pay via PayPal, but they scrapped that off. So right now they only pay via banks. So if your friend or loved one opens such an account for you, then your money will go straight to their bank account. Then they can always cut your share and send it to you, okay? So in that case, I think they can just deduct their taxes and file as they're supposed to. Speaking of shares, if you're from these countries that allow you to open an account, but you don't have the time to handle the work, then you can just open the account and hire professionals. For example, if it's writing, you can hire people who are very good at writing and have them handle the work for you, submit it back to you, then you can be uploading it back to the account. Then once you're paid, you can send them their share. But it's a good idea to make sure that you know what you're doing, because if you do not, people might send bad work. How are you going to confirm that this work is not up to standards? So it's always a good idea to make sure that you also know what you're doing. If it's transcription, know how to transcribe. If it's writing, know how to write, so that you only deliver quality work. Because the thing about these accounts is, if you deliver poor quality work, it's going to get closed, okay? If you don't submit work on time, it's going to get closed. If you open it from a location that is not allowed, then eventually it's also going to get closed. It's a slippery slope that way, but the good thing about these accounts is once you get a good one, I'm telling you for a fact, you're sorted. These accounts can pay you so much money, like so much money, enough to transform your life for the better. Some best practices when you're opening or using an account. Number one, make sure that you know what you're doing, because all accounts are going to give you some form of test, like entry test. So unless you know what you're doing, it's going to be very hard for you to ace that test. Number two, make sure that you have all the documentation, because at some point, again, they're going to ask you for details like social security number, phone number, address. If you don't have those, then it's going to be hard for you to open the account. Number three, if you have an account, make sure that you're submitting work on time and the work that you're submitting is high quality, because if the work is not high quality and you're not submitting on time, then the account will get closed. Lastly, if you're going to buy the account, try to make sure that you're matching the quality of the person who was using it, because if you're buying the account and you're submitting mediocre work, it's going to be flagged as soon as you deliver your first work. And as promised, here's a list of writing accounts, transcription accounts, and chat moderation accounts, but you can also try survey accounts like Prolific.